Sit right down and I'll show you where my dreams began.
Welcome to the Voice4Chefs podcast. I'm your host, Michael Dugan, and I'm thrilled to present our very first food talk show. Today's episode is a live, meticulously edited pre-recording from our engaging discussion on food as religion in the Clubhouse app. I want to extend a special thanks to Chef Mimi Lan and all the incredible members who have made our club a thriving community of over 7,800 passionate individuals from around the globe. Together, we comprise chefs, culinary artists, and devoted food enthusiasts who love nothing more than engaging in conversations about cooking and all things food related. Without further ado, let's dive into our captivating interview. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to the extraordinary Indigenous Andean chef, Andrea Murdoch. Not only is she an accomplished author, guest lecturer, and the owner of Four Directions Cuisine, but she also serves as a moderator, host, and dear friend to Food as Religion. Andrea is a true powerhouse of knowledge and expertise in the culinary world. So please join me in warmly welcoming Andrea Murdoch to our virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Michael. Maria, Ingrid, thank you so much for having me here.
Delighted and excited that you're here. I know that you're working and I want to visualize what's going on there.
Yes. So I participate in a farmer's market every couple of weeks. I work with, or I should say I'm a chef participant with a shop called Ruby's Market on South Pearl Street in Denver, Colorado. And the shop owner and creator, Michelle Lasnier, she specifically curates her shop from refugee and other immigrant women who are just, we're small-time entrepreneurs. We're just doing what we can. Some of us are supporting children and families. Some are just, flying solo, but that's still a lot of work too. So I'm here at the farmer's market. I packed up just a pinch early so I could chat with you wonderful folks. And it is like a dog parade at these farmers markets, and everybody is just such a good dog parent too. It's really beautiful to be out here on Sundays just to see that hustle and bustle, see all the beautiful local produce. The farmers are selling it themselves, fresh cut flowers. People have all of these, beautiful market baskets. None of them look alike, so you can tell that they've purchased them from makers themselves or shops like Ruby's Market that sells these, handmade goods. It's really incredible. It's a lot of fun. And we're usually here from, about 8 until just shy of 2 in the afternoon. And so it's more or less a full day, but it's so beautiful and it's wonderful to chat with folks, and the connections that you make are really wonderful. Just chatting with people who, your work resonates with them, or they thank you for your work, especially, when I come across other Indigenous folks and they, come to my table and, they're like, oh, I know what that symbol is. That's the Chicana cross, or, oh, I know where that comes from, or, just whatever it is. And just that connection is important and so beautiful.
Can you walk us through your table, your setup? I know it's extremely creative and engaging. Can you just give us a visualization of what it looks like out there?
Sure. So I always have some sort of, native pattern tablecloth, or I sometimes bring the cacao sacks that have all the beautiful, decorations painted on them, when shipping, and, those burlap sacks. And so I'll have, 2 different baseball hats, or trucker hats, I should say, on the table. One is camo. Back, above the opening, it says "Not all wounds are visible," and it has a little teal ribbon on the side, and that was created for just mental health awareness in general, in conjunction with my Warrior Goddess dinner that I host every May to raise funds for National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. Then the other hat is my 2022 MMIW hat, MMIW G2S, I should add. It stands for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two Spirits. I am a two-spirit woman, so that's important work to me as well. And then I have my blue cornmeal sugar cookies in, a craft paper bag with the little window opening so you can see that beautiful blue. And I always share with folks that I source my blue corn and yellow corn from the Ute tribe here in southwestern Colorado. And then I also have 2 of my 3 flavors of Inca Trail Mix. And that one's special. It took me about 5 years or more to bring that to market because there was a niche, but people weren't ready for it. So I love that because it's my pre-colonial answer to the very European oat-based granola. And it's much more nutrient dense and lower in carbohydrates because of the ingredients I'm using. So I utilize Colorado grown organic quinoa, use popped amaranth that I do pop myself on the stovetop. If you've ever done that, it's labor intensive, but it's also a lot of fun.
What is amaranth?
Amaranth is a crop that is indigenous to South America, to the Andes specifically. It's actually a seed, even though it's usually discussed as a grain, and it's roughly the size of a poppy seed. And so when you get it into a pan that has the right heat to it, they start to dance and pop, just like popcorn. But they're even more delicate than popcorn is, the corn kernels. So you can definitely over toast them. And I myself even burn the first batch, sometimes the second batch too. So it's definitely a trial and error thing for your first time or two.
Wow. Well, now I feel like I want to be at the market, like right now. I know I don't like a lot of heat. My wife will tell you I get what's called heat attitude when it gets really hot. But I'm more like a 70s, 80s kind of guy. And past 80 degrees, that's why we live in Seattle. It's pretty mild climate, but we're heading for some pretty hot temperatures too. So moving on, why don't you take us back a little bit and share a little bit about your backstory, and may we take a walk with you through your life?
Sure. So I am originally from, I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, but my indigeneity is from the San Cristobal region, which is on the western side of Venezuela, eastern border of Colombia. I was actually adopted by an American Army family. Adopted when I was 6 or 9 weeks. I always forget which one it is. I always know it's in increments of 3, though. And then we left Venezuela because it was, an active war zone. My father's orders got changed. They barely got me out of the country because my adoption wasn't finalized. And so my dad had orders to go to El Salvador. And my parents were coming up with contingency plans if my adoption wasn't finalized yet. But fortunately, all the paperwork got through in time, and all 3 of us traveled to El Salvador. We spent shy of 3 years there, I believe, because we came to the States to live permanently when I was about 3 years old. And so if you can imagine this little Andina living in middle of nowhere, Ohio, that was me growing up. When I was in middle school, Father and I started watching Emerald Live on Food Network. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. So much fun. That was our father-daughter time, so 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on weekdays, we would watch Chef Emerald live cook. And, back then we had the dial-up AOL, and, the whole house knew it if you were logging on to print a recipe or something like that. And that's what we would do. We'd decide, what recipes we wanted to try, if any, and then we would try them. So it was a lot of fun. It was a cool way to bond, because otherwise my father and I would talk about Latin American politics, which have fun imagining a 12-year-old talk Latin American politics with her Lieutenant Colonel Army father. Because his major at West Point was political science. So
oh my gosh.
Up until Emerald Live, that was our father-daughter bonding time.
So the food was the savior. Or
it really was.
Food, and Emerald was kind of the savior, right?
Yeah. And so I was having very adult conversations about Latin American politics when I was, a young teenager. Yeah, I was bit with the food bug, and I've been cooking for 20 years, almost 21. I've never looked back through all the the chaos and the mess and the insanity,
Yeah.
but also, all of the overwhelmingly awesome things that just would not have happened outside of a kitchen. Just the personal growth and the exploration, and even the damage. Even the trauma from kitchens teaches us a lot. So it's been quite the journey, and I am beyond excited to see what the next chapter has in store for me.
So when you connected to Emerald, was that a time that you started cooking at an early age? Do you remember a first dish you remember cooking?
Uh, I'm sure it was something along the lines of cookies, or coffee cake, with my mother. Actually, coffee cake is a very, very possible first dish that I ever made. I was, oddly enough, because my parents are not foodies by any stretch of the imagination, food has always been a focal point for me. My father used to brew his own beer, and I remember sitting in the middle of our kitchen, like the actual cooking space, not where we sat for meals, but remember, pulling a chair from the kitchen table into the middle of the actual, like, physical cooking space. And my dad had his, brand new trash can, and it was lined, and he had his, fermented, his brew base in there, and he was siphoning it into all of these reclaimed bottles, all of these flip tops, that he had gotten here, there, and everywhere. I know that some of them came from Germany when he and my mother were stationed there. And it was just really cool to just, sit in a kitchen chair and watch my dad, make beer, and just to watch that process, beginning, middle, end. And then, of course, for it to be sitting in racks in the basement. And every once in a while, they'd get a little too yeasty and active, and we would hear one burst, which was always funny if we were watching movies on a Friday night, and all of a sudden we'd hear pop.
Andrea, I did not expect this. This is awesome. This is like really where it all started. I get it. It's funny because I burnt a coffee cake and I made it for my mom. That's the first thing I ever remember. So we're connected in another way that I didn't even realize. That's really cool.
Absolutely. I've watched, the process of food, the process of even beverage, since I was, I was younger than 10. Yeah, I think I was younger than 10 when all of these memories started, at least the ones that I can actually remember. There are a few memories from El Salvador that my mother has had to tell me, like picking lemons off of the neighbor's tree and just sitting underneath the tree in El Salvador, sucking on these fresh lemons, and they are nowhere near as tart and sour as if you were to do that here in the US. Like you can't grab a lemon from the grocery store and do that. You're going to be in for quite the surprise. But they're different when you pick them right off the tree. They're different when you pick them right off the tree in the US versus in the tropics. And I remember my mom telling me about a fair-skinned little boy who would do the same thing, except his skin was so fair that the acid in the juice dripping down his arms would actually give him, it would advance what the sun was doing, and it would actually give him like mild sunburns on his forearms, because
Oh my
the
God.
juice, yeah, the juice was real, nothing like, if he got burned like by a flame or anything like that, but you could tell it was the combination of the sun and that acid, fruit juice just rolling down his forearms. He would burn, but I had no problems because I'm Andina.
Wow. It's funny when you talk about these foods. I remember reading an article. I read several, by the way, and watched a few videos. You have a lot of great information out there about your background and everything around indigenous cuisine. You were talking about carrot juice and you got really excited about it in your writing. It was a carrot juice? I think it was.
Yeah, it was carrot and orange juice combined.
And that was like freshly squeezed. And can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So probably the first time my folks took me back to Latin America, I was a junior in high school. There was no chance, and still is no chance, of me going to Venezuela because it's more or less imploded. It's highly difficult to get out. It's difficult to get in. You also don't want to go in. It's the whole country is a war zone, which is really sad because it's actually a very, very rich country. So it's sad to see what's happened from the political standpoint and how it's trickled down to our citizens. I remember going to Guatemala with my parents. I was about 17 years old, junior in high school, and we were touring around the country. We were in a little mercado, and we were walking through, just taking in everything. And we stopped at this juice stand, and there are just crates on crates on crates of fresh produce. Full well somebody picked it in the past 24 hours. And you order what it is that you want. Zanahoria, carrot, naranja, orange, and they put it through their machine. They juice it for you right there, hand it to you in a cup. It is the freshest flavor bomb that I have ever experienced. And so fast forward, 15 plus years later, I wanted to create a dessert for a fundraising dinner that I was putting on. I think it was Indigenous Peoples Day. And I wanted to take a walk down memory lane. And so I created CityWalk is what I call the dish. And it's, this chocolate ganache, but it's made with, full fat coconut milk out of the can. And then I make a carrot orange jelly and a carrot orange curd. And I make a little concha, and I deconstruct that. So it's like pieces of the concha bread, but also the crumble instead of it, the cookie being baked on top of the concha. It's just such a cool deconstructed dessert. And as people are kind of taking pieces and experience the different elements separately and together, I'm explaining the story that I've just shared with you all. And just the look on their faces, I can tell that they can visualize that they're there. And that's how I know that I did my job well.
It's funny. That's what I remember was CityWalk and the dessert and this connection. And I know you do that with a lot of your cuisine, which I think is really unique as a chef. I interview a lot of chefs, and I don't hear that connection as much. That's really, really powerful. Talking about becoming a chef, how and why did you become an Indigenous Indian chef?
That's a fun story.
It's loaded, I know.
Yeah, it's loaded. You've done enough of a deep dive on me in my career that
you don't have to go too deep if you don't want to.
We're good. I like sharing the story, and I also have an easier time sharing the story now. And it's been so long, and I also like sharing the story because it helps other people. I know that me hearing other people's stories, them being an underdog as well, or them going through trauma, I'm just like, you know what? I got this. I can do it. It's just a tough day, tough week, whatever it may be.
In part 2, we invite you to follow along with Andrea Murdoch and discover how she evolved into an independent, Indigenous Indian chef who inspires the world around us. Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on Facebook. Find our website in the show notes. Subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen. Leave a comment with 5 stars, and stay tuned for the next episode of Voice for Chefs.